Jesus' name.
Amen. In a couple of my other classes, I introduced you to a little book, a little bit. It's this is not an inspired book, but this is a history book that goes all the way back. It's quoted in Joshua 1:10 and 13, and 2 Samuel 1 and 18, and 2 Timothy 3:8 and 8. And let's look at those verses real quick. I'm just going to let you just see this. It's not an inspired book, but there is information in this book that is not anyplace else. And the Apostle Paul in 2 Timothy 3 and 8 quoted it. He quotes the book. He doesn't say it is, but it's the book of Jasher. 2 Timothy 3 and 8. Second Timothy 3 and 8. And now I want you to look at, have any of you got your Bibles here? Do you have your regular Bibles? Okay, you do? Okay, that's good. All right, 2 Timothy 3 and 8, it says, Paul is speaking here to Timothy, and he's talking about difficult times are going to come. He's talking about eschatology, so to speak. He's talking about the devil and how the devil works through people. And he charges him well, he tells him about the inspiration of God's Word, and he said, you got a lot of problems out there because the devil's out there. No matter what you do, you're going to fight the devil wherever you go. All right? There's angel wars and devil wars and all of this. We see all of this all the time. And in 3 and 7, it starts out here. He said, well, 3 and 1, but realize this, that in the last day difficult times will come, for men will be lovers of self, lovers of money, boasters, arrogant, revilers, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, unloving, irreconcilable, malicious gossips, without self-control, brutal, haters of good, and so on and so forth. This is all the works of the devil, okay? And then he comes down here and he tells us something else. Always learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth, in verse 7. And just as Jannes and Jambres opposed Moses, so these men also oppose the truth. Men of a depraved mind rejected as regards to the faith. All right? Jannes and Jambres. Now, do any of your Bibles have a reference to verse number 8 there? Do any of your Bibles have a reference to that? That happened when Moses was in Egypt, remember?
Exodus 7:11.
Okay, Exodus 7:11. But if you go there in Exodus 7:11, and we can go back there real quick, we'll find out that Jannes and Jambres are not mentioned there. Exodus 7 and verse 11. The way that Paul the Apostle got those names was by reading the book of Jasher. All right? Exodus 7 and verse 11. You know, when I was young, I could just pick up my Bible and any book, and I could turn the pages. And my grandmother was sitting there licking her fingers. And I was wondering why she did that. Now, whatever happens with when you get wore out and old and aged, you can't turn the pages anymore. Anyway, 7 and verse 11. Then Pharaoh called for the wise men and the sorcerers, and they also the magicians of Egypt, and did the same with their secret arts. Now, according to the book of Jasher, have you ever heard of Balaam? Balaam was the father of these two fellows. These two rats, this Jannes and Jambres. All right? And he hung around for a long time and did a whole lot of bad things. Anyway, Paul, the Apostle, quotes the book of Jasher. That's where he gets the names, okay? And he quotes pagan poets and all kinds of stuff. But the book of Jasher is, the Jews always looked at it as historically accurate. In 2 Samuel 1 and 18, 2 Samuel 1 and 18, Second Samuel 1:18. I'm just going to spend a little bit of time on this because this is a research. On Sunday morning I've been teaching about clues to research. How do you research something? How do you chase something down? Now, if you went to 2 Timothy and read that book, you'd say, where in the world did he get these names? I'm telling you where he got them. Okay? 2 Samuel 1:18. And he told them to teach the sons of Judah the song of the bow, and behold, it is written in the what? The book of Jasher, which is this book right here. That's what he's talking about. Now in Joshua 10 and verse 13. Joshua 10 and 13. You can get some information in here in this book. That's all I'm saying. And the sun stood still and the moon stopped until the nation avenged themselves of their enemies. Is it not written in what? Is it not written in what? The book of Jasher. All right? And this, in the book of Jasher, the sun stopped in the middle of the sky and did not hasten to go down about a whole day. All right, so there's where we have this little book of Jasher. And what it says, Sefer HaYesher, is what it says right on the front of it. And it's some pretty neat things. In the book of Jasher, it tells us, remember when we studied about Rebecca? Remember Rebecca? And we guessed how old she was? How old did we guess Rebecca was when she got married to Isaac, the old man? How old was she?
9, 10, 11.
9, 10, 11. You know what the book of Jasher, how old the book of Jasher says she was? It says 10 years old. All right? 10 years old. It also tells, now women, listen, perk up now, pull those little ears out real good. It gives the names of all the patriarchs' wives in the book of Jasher. It even gives the name of Noah's wife. You remember the name of Noah's wife? I gave it to you this before. Remember her name?
Yeah.
Huh? Naamah. 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 That's Noah's wife, Naamah. Anyway, it has a special emphasis on women in the book of Jasher. It tells you their names. It tells you where the wives came from and all of this, which you don't get. It tells you that Noah's wife, Noah got married, and his wife was about, I think, 20 years older than him. But when she had her first child, she was over 500 years old. All right. And anyway, it tells a lot of different things like that in the Bible. It tells about the different, where Ham got, and the names of Ham, Shem, and Japheth's wives, and where their wives came from, and all of that. All right, let's go to 49 and verse 9. 49 and verse 9. Genesis 49 and verse 9. So now when you read this, you can also go back and you can study. And when I studied the book of Genesis, I studied the book of Jasher also. And you look at it, and it really will shed a little light on that. There's some things it just fills in little gaps. Did you ever wonder what Noah's wife's name was? And how old she was and where she came from? All right. And all the other ones, all of these other guys' wives, their names, they just left them out. It said he married a woman. Well, the book of Jasher tells you where they were. Ger, Aryeh, Yehuda, Mittereth, Benay, Alita, Kara, Rehoboth, Kerarye, Ukilavi, Me, Yekimenu. All right, and a whelp. A whelp. On page 158, it tells you what a whelp is. What is a whelp?
Small animal.
Okay, it's a young animal. A young animal. A young animal. A whelp. A lion, a young lion is a whelp. Okay, it's a young animal that is still dangerous. It's a young animal, but it is very powerful and dangerous, okay? A whelp, a lion, Aryeh. A lion, what it emphasizes in the Hebrew lion, is talking about a mouth that is very powerful. Okay? A mouth that is very powerful. Claws that are very powerful. And death dealing, okay? Powerful and death dealing. Judah, a lion, a whelp, a lion. And he's talking about Judah here, and he's talking about lion. Now remember Judah's life. Now this is where the Messiah is going to come from right here. This is the one. This is Genesis 3:15. All right, Genesis 3:15. You're a woman, all right, and you're Satan. And Jehovah is talking to Satan, and man and woman are listening. And he said what to them in Genesis 3:15? Remember what he said? This is the fulfillment of it. It's what it's talking about, Genesis 3:15, back in the book of Genesis. And I will put active hatred between you and the woman, between the serpent, or the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman, and between your seed and her seed, and he shall bruise you as to the head, but you shall bruise him as to the heel. All right? And that's what would happen. Galatians 4:4 talks about this in the New Testament. And here we have it emphasized, re-emphasized here. It's going to tell us where the seed of the woman's going to come from. All right? We're going to go on and look a little bit further. We're going to go in the book of Ezekiel. We're going to go into the book of Revelation. A lion, a whelp, Yehudah. Now, what does Yehudah mean? That first part there in front of Yehudah, what does it mean? Yehudah. What does Yehudah mean? It means praise ye Jehovah. Praise Jehovah. All right? Now, Judah's life wasn't very good, was it? It was a sorry life. But God, if you have a sorry life, God can use your sorry life. Because he used Yehudah's sorry life. All right? Metareth, from prey. All right? Judah, from prey, my son, you have gone up. You have gone up. That's alita, that's second person masculine singular cal perfect. All right? You have gone up. And he stoops. And he has crouched. He has stoops and he has crouched. What is this talking about? Stooping and crouching.
Hiding.
Hiding. All right. Animals. How many of you have ever watched an animal track and stalk its prey? That's what it's talking about. Huh? Your cat. You got a cat. I had a cat that.
Looking for a rabbit.
Yeah, a dog looking for a rabbit. Audie Murphy killed, I think it was 341 Germans. And he was only 5'5.5" when he went into the service. He actually was about 17 years old. He didn't tell the truth about his age. He went in when he just turned 17. He said that he just turned 18, but he just turned 17. And his age is debated and disputed back and forth all the way through his life. But he went over there and he was very small. He only weighed 110 pounds. He was basically had malnutrition all of his life. And he said he kept growing later on in life. But they said, what did he look like when he was in the movies? He's always really erect. And how many of you have seen him in the movies? Boy, I mean, he's as straight as a board erect all the way through. They had to teach him to walk like that. That wasn't his stance. His stance was like a creep, like this. Now, I'm going to tell you something. A man that's only 110 pounds and 5'5", standing up there, he's going to be a lot harder to hit than a 6-foot man weighing 240 pounds in it, because there's a whole lot smaller target. But he would crouch, and the people that he went with and fought with, he said, because he did that, he probably saved his life 1,000 times. Crouching. That's what it says here, crouching. Stooping and crouching, slipping down and laying low to the ground. When you see a cat or a lion, it's just barely moving. I mean, laying as flat as it can lay to the ground. All right, he crouches like a lion. And it says like a strong lion. Like a strong lion. Now, what is a strong lion? Which one is the strong one? Girls, I have something else good to tell you. You know what? The male is the strongest. The female does most of the hunting. The female does most of the killing.
That means the male is lazy.
The male saves his energy to fight off other males and other females from different groups, different tribes. And the male is so powerful, but he saves his energy for that. The women go out and they do all the work. The girl lions. So the girl lions do most of the hunting and most of the killing. And then the male lion will eat, but he will sit there and fight all the other animals off. All of the other tigers and other lions and other hyenas and everything else, because he's very strong and very powerful. His jaws are much stronger than the female's jaws, and his claws are much more powerful than the female, but he is a guard. He is a guard.
So isn't what he really doing fighting off the males so they can't have the females?
Well, he's fighting off the hyenas, he's fighting off the tigers, because when the females make the kill, all the other animals want it. See, that's welfare. Okay, I mean, it's there. I mean, all they have to do is come and steal it. Okay? And where I live out there, I have some welfare frogs. I have a lot of frogs that eat bugs. But out there in one shop, I have cat food out there, and it's setting up on a little thing about this tall like this, and it's an old milk crate, and it's got little crisscrosses in it like that, and those frogs will get up there and climb up that thing and get in the cat bowl and eat the cat food. That's the ones I call my welfare frogs. Now the other lions and the tigers and the hyenas and the wolves and all the wild dogs, everything will come and get the kill, and the lion, the male lion, fights them off, and that's what it's talking about, the male lion. All right, he is strong like a lion, and it says, who shall wake him up? Who shall wake him up? There is an old story called "Let Sleeping Dogs Lie." Let sleeping dogs lie. Have you ever heard this story? Let sleeping dogs lie. One time, a long time ago, probably 35 or maybe even 40 years ago, probably 40, well, it was over 40 years ago. Actually, now I get thinking about it. I trained a little horse, and he was very much abused. And I turned a really good animal. I mean, he was an outlaw. I called him Skeeter. He was a real beautiful little palomino paint-looking, looked like a little miniature quarter horse, and he was very powerful. But these Mexican guys had him, and they abused him. They got on him. They bucked him out, and he was small, but he was powerful. And I paid $35 for him and a saddle and a bridle. And the saddle and the bridle was more than $35, but they wanted to get rid of this animal because you couldn't walk in the pen with him. They had made him so mean that he would come striking and biting at you, trying to protect himself. Well, I had to beat him off with the whip and everything else, but I finally trained him, and I mean, he made a wonderful little harness animal. He made a wonderful little saddle horse and everything. And I had him, he could do all kinds of tricks. He'd get up on a tree stump, and he'd shake hands with you and count and say yes and no and all kinds of little things I taught him how to do. Well, this guy came out there and wanted to buy him, and he paid me the money for him. And he said, now I want you to go out here, it was way out in the Roselle area, and take him out there and knock at the door, somebody might be there. But just put him out there in this one corral and leave all his little harness. I gave him his harness and everything out there. So I went out there, and there was a sleeping dog. A sleeping dog. Oh, he was a big sleeping dog. I went to the door, and I saw the dog just laying down there like it's just calm and like it had been drugged. Okay? And I went out there and started to go back to the car. That dog got up and he started just sneaking on me, just like a lion or something, and showing me all of its teeth. Showing me all of its teeth, and just growling like he was going to eat me alive. I pulled my pocket knife out, pulled my gun out, And I was going to do him damage if he was going to do me damage. When he was going to, and I had my knife and as sharp as a razor, and I just pointed it at him, just like this, and I went out backwards. Just like that. Let sleeping dogs lie. That's what it's talking about here. Let sleeping dogs lie. Don't rouse him. Don't dare rouse him. You at least see him sit there, leave him alone. But he is one that shouldn't be bothered. That shouldn't be bothered. Leave sleeping dogs lie. In Ezekiel, 19th chapter, Ezekiel, that's right before Daniel, you know. Ezekiel, the 19th chapter. Ezekiel 19, and it starts all the way through here. Make a lamentation for the princes of Israel. Say, what is your mother? A lioness among lions. She lay down among the young lions, and she reared her cubs. It's talking about Judah. Talking about Ariel here. And she brought up one of her cubs. And he became a lion. This is a powerful lion like Judah. Okay? And he became a lion. And he learned to tear his prey and to devour men. And nations heard about him, and he was captured in their pit. And they brought him with hooks to the land of Egypt. And she saw, and she waited, and her hope was lost. And she took another of her cubs, and she made him a young lion. A young lion. This is all prophecy here. All prophecy. And he walked about among the lions, and he became a young lion. He learned to tear his prey, and he devoured men. And he destroyed their fortified towers and laid waste to their cities. And the land and its fullness were appalled because of the sound of his roaring. The nations set up against him on every side. All right. This is what it's talking about. This is all what we call figurative or language here. We're talking about Jehoiakim. We're talking about Zedekiah. We're talking about Jehoahaz. All of these. And this is Pharaoh Necho that it's talking about also. Now turn to Micah 5 and 8, Numbers 24:9, and then Revelation. Revelation, the 12th chapter. Revelation chapter 12. Let's go there. Revelation chapter 12. Let's start with verse number 1. And a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and on her head was a crown of 12 stars. Who do you think this is? Who do you think this might be? Historically. Who was this, do you think?
Eve.
Huh?
Eve.
No, it wasn't Eve. Who is this? Who is this? She's a woman appeared in heaven clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet. Now, did Joseph see a dream something like this one time? He saw the sun and the moon. All right. And we're going to see that Joseph was a type of Jesus. Absolutely, he was a type of Jesus in the 70 different ways, I believe.
Oh, Mary.
No. You keep on guessing.
Well, I read this.
Uh-huh.
Sounds...
And on her head was a crown of 12 stars. Now, who is the mother of 12 tribes? Israel. 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 This is Israel. This is the feminine.
It's not talking about his wife?
No, it's talking about Israel as the wife of God. Israel. All right, Israel. Okay? And she was with child, and she cried out, being in labor and pain to give birth. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns on his head, and 7 diadems. And his tail swept away 1/3 of the stars of heaven. This is talking about angel wars right here now, fellas and girls. Angel wars. This is when, way back in eternity past, this is when Satan rebelled against God. Okay? Satan rebelled against God, and he took with him 1/3 of the spiritual forces and of the angelic forces. 1/3 of them followed Satan. Okay? third of the stars of heaven, and threw them to earth. How was the earth so destroyed after God had created the earth in the original creation? Because Satan destroyed it, him and his angels. And the dragon stood before the woman, and she was about to give birth, and she gave birth, that he might devour the child. Who's this talking about? This is when Israel gave forth the Messiah child. This is Genesis 3:15, the fulfillment of Genesis 3:15. This is going to be the Lion of the tribe of Judah. The Lion of the tribe of Judah is Jesus. Okay? And she gave birth to a son, a male child, who is to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up to God and to his throne. All right? Now, right there, this all talks about, from verses 1 through 5, this talks about the coming Messiah through Mary. Mary was the representative of Israel, and she would bring forth a child. She was a representative of Eve that brought forth the child, okay? Now, from verse 6 on down, we find out that she's going to hide. Now, this is during the tribulation period right here. This is when Israel is going to hide from about the middle of the week onward, okay? This is when Israel is going to hide. And Zechariah 14, verse 1 through 5 covers this. Many theologians think she's going to go to Petra during this period of time. And it said the woman fled into the wilderness where she had a place prepared by God so that she might be nourished for 1,260 days, and that's 3.5 years, if you work it out. All right? And then we find about in verse number 7, and there was war in heaven, Michael and his angels waging war with the dragon and his angels waged war. And there was no one strong enough there to any longer place for them in heaven. And Job 1, 6, and 7, well, you can cross-reference this and go back there and talk about the angels, the sons of God. And the great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old, who is called the devil and Satan, the one who deceives the whole world. He is thrown down to earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. And then it said, I heard a loud voice, salvation and power and glory and honor, the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brethren has been thrown down, who accuses them before our God. Okay? And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb. Now here we have the lion lamb. We have an animal that is a lamb is an animal that is absolutely helpless. Helpless. You know what kind of skin a lamb has? It is so tender that it can be just ripped and torn. And it is not a very bright defensive animal. Someone has to defend it. Okay? It is as gentle as a lamb, they say. Now, Jesus Christ came as a lamb to slaughter, and he walked, it says, to the cross as if the lamb is dumb to the sacrificial yard. It doesn't know what's going to happen to it. Jesus did. But he walked like a lamb. He walked there, and he was slaughtered there. All right? Let's go on a little further. Now, this is what it's talking about. Who will rouse him? Who will meet him? Who will encounter him? Who will have the audacity to rouse and encounter this powerful one? All right? 49 and verse 10. 49 and verse 10. Lo, Yasur, Shevet, Mehuda, Yune Chakik, Neven, Yagla, Ragla, Ad, Ki, Yava, Shiloh, Wilo, Yekeha, Amim. All right? Not shall depart, turn aside. Shall keep on departing and turn aside. Third person masculine singular, cal imperfect. In the beginning of it, we have an adverb of negation. Not shall turn aside or shall depart. A scepter. What is a scepter? Scepter. That's page 987 in Brown, Driver, and Briggs. What is this scepter? What is a scepter?
It's the thing the king holds.
The thing the king holds. Now, Pharaoh held 2 scepters, didn't he? and they crossed them. Have any of you ever seen movies or pictures of the Pharaoh? What did those two scepters represent?
Upper and Lower Egypt.
Upper and Lower Egypt. He held both scepters like this. Now this one is going to hold the authority, the scepter. The scepter. Now in times of old, sometimes they would hold a sword. And Abraham held a staff. The book of Jasher tells you this. Now, I don't know whether this is true or not, but the Jews accepted this. But Noah had a staff in his hand. Noah had not Noah, but Adam had a staff. He had a staff from the very time. And he wrote his name on it. And he wrote the history of his family and everything else, and that he gave it to Seth. And that he gave it to his son, he gave it to his son. Anyway, Noah ended up with that staff. And all the way down through the whole history, they had that staff. They had that staff. That was a sign of authority. It was like a king's. It was like the staff that guaranteed inheritance. Okay? And that's what a scepter is. One king gives the scepter to another. They hand it down, and that scepter is hundreds of years old, thousands of years old. How have you ever heard of this, the stone of Scone? The stone of Scone. How many of you have heard that? You heard about it from me. All right. The British people say that the stone of Scone was the one that Jacob laid his head on when he had the vision of the angels going back and forth to heaven. And they carried that stone and they put it over there, and it's underneath the crown chair. And everyone that's ever been crowned wanted to be sitting on that chair above that stone. It's like a symbol of authority that's passed down from generation to generation. It's like something divine. This is a divine scepter. And not shall depart the scepter from Judah, and his leader's staff, or rod of authority, from between his feet. And they would sit on the throne, and they would put that staff between their feet, and they would hold it there between their feet, the staff. Until that may come, or comes, keeps on coming, Shiloh. Shiloh. What is Shiloh? What does Shiloh mean? It's on page 1010 and Brown, Driver, and Big. Shiloh means the tent of peace. It means tranquility. It also is a name for Messiah. It is also the name for the tent of the meeting. All right, Shiloh. The tabernacle stood at Shiloh for 400 years. Check it, for 400 years. Shiloh. Now, most biblical scholars believe that it means that that Judah would never cease and be taken from the land totally until the Messiah would come. And in all reality, the Jews today get their name from what? What did they get their name from? The Jews, where did they get the name Jew? Where does that come from? Judah. All right. And where was their allotted land? Always in Jerusalem, in that area. All right. Where are they today? In Jerusalem, in that area. All right. It says that that would still be considered Judah's land and his allotment. Everybody else has been scattered, hauled off, and everything else, but Judah always knew where his land was, and that was in Jerusalem. Okay? All those years. And the scepter would not part from Judah until Shiloh comes, and to him obedience of nations. All right? Even though Esau's descendant was on the throne, and Esau was not the covenanted child, was he? Was he or not? Who was the covenanted child? Who was the covenanted child, Jacob or Esau? Jacob was. And somehow the devil, with devil and angel wars, got his man on the throne of Israel before the Messiah came. But all of them knew. In the book of Matthew, we know the lineage of the man that was supposed to be on the throne of Israel when Jesus was born into this world. And who was supposed to be on that throne?
Joseph.
Joseph was supposed to be on that throne. That's who he was. Joseph was supposed to have been on that throne. But he wasn't. Because Herod bought the throne. Herod came in and he bought the Sanhedrin court. He killed all the high priests. He installed his own men. And he said that I am a Jew also, because I've got a little bit of relation that we're Jew. But he was Esau. He was a son of Esau. He was an Edomite. In Matthew, the 21st chapter, verses 1 through 44, in Acts, the 7th chapter, verses 37 through 53, these are all rehearses the history of this. The scepter shall not part from Judah until Shiloh, or the Messiah, comes. Psalm 60 and verse 7, Psalm 108 and verse 8, Psalm 2 and verse 6 through 9, and 72, 8 through 11, Isaiah 42, 1 and 14, and Isaiah 49 and 6, Numbers 24, 17. All of these different verses. And then Matthew, in the book of Matthew, Katamathium. Matthew, the first book in the New Testament. Matthew is the first book in the New Testament. Let's go and see what the first chapter says. The first few verses in the book of Matthew, the first gospel in the New Testament. Okay? The book of the genealogy, or the family history of who? Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. To Abraham was born Isaac, and to Isaac Jacob, and to Jacob who? Who's that?
Judah.
Judah, the lion of the tribe of Judah. And to Judah were born Perez and Zerah by Tamar, and Perez was born in Hezron, and Hezron to Ram. Now, this goes all the way down. It goes all the way down here to verse number 16. And to Jacob was born Joseph, the husband of Mary, by whom was born Jesus, who is called Christ, Messiah. That's what it's talking about. Now, when Jesus was born, the Roman government said that the Jewish nation could no longer, right after he was born, the Roman government said that the Jewish nation could no longer exact capital punishment, so they would have to go to them to do that. But the Messiah was born. Not only that, but Judah was in the same place. They were geographically exactly in the same place. Now, in the book of Matthew also it tells us that Jesus rode in on the throne to take the throne of his Father. He was a Messiah, and he rode into Jerusalem on a what? A donkey, and probably a white donkey. The next time he comes in and comes to this earth, he's going to be riding what?
Horse.
A white horse. A donkey is an animal of what? That they rode in times of peace. But a horse is the war animal. That's the one that you wear and ride in times of war. Okay? AD 70 would be the end for nearly 2,000 years, would be the end of Judah in the land. Judah would be carried off. The city of Jerusalem would be razed, absolutely turned into rubble all the way to the ground, and that would happen to them because of the rebellion, how they fought against the Messiah King that was their Messiah King. Jesus looked over at Jerusalem. He said, oh, Jerusalem, how many times I would have called you like a mother hen with her little chickens, just like this. If you come out to my house, if I go like that, go by the chicken pens, they'll just come running. Because they got good sense. They know I got something good for them. And Mama is either telling them there's danger coming or I got something good for you. And Jesus said, how many times I would have called you like a mother hen does to a little chick, but you didn't have enough sense as a chicken. But you would not come. Not many days from now, there will not be one stone left upon another. Your time of mercy is over. God returns back to him again in the end times, but we're not going there right now. 49 and verse 11. Oseri, legafen, ero, that is, we la sarika, bene, otano, kibes, bayayim, bayayim, that is, li buso, uvidam, anavim, suto. Binding, tying for a bind. Here's a male donkey. That word there means to walk carefully, iro. Iro. To walk carefully, a male donkey. And for a choice vine, a son, a donkey, a male donkey, otano. He has washed in wine his clothing, in blood of grapes his clothing, or his appearance. All right? This is really an unusual verse. This is an unusual verse. Let's go back and look at these two verses. And I didn't bring my Amplified Bible with me, but I do have a New American Standard. Genesis 49. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He crouches, he lies down like a lion. As a lion, who dares to rise him? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, or the ruler's staff from between his feet, until Shiloh comes. And to him shall be obedience of the peoples. He ties his foal to the vine, and his donkey's colt to a choice vine, and he washes his garments in wine, and his robes in the blood of grapes. Look at that. Now that's unusual. That doesn't make sense, does it? How many of you girls do your own washing? Oh, you do. You don't have a laundress?
Oh, I don't want anyone touching my clothes.
Okay. All right. That's good. Now, have you ever spilled grape juice on a pretty white garment?
I don't know if it was white, but you don't have to.
Okay.
You've got to wash it right away.
Right away. Right away. How about blood? Ooh, that's a problem, isn't it? Because blood's got a lot of iron in it, and it stains things red, doesn't it? All right? That's what it's talking about here. Now, how in the world are you going to wash your clothes in blood or grapes and get them clean? Doesn't make sense, does it? Doesn't make sense at all. Not sense. John 1:1 and John 1:14, it talks about the eternal God becoming flesh. The fulfillment of the Jehovah titles is in John 1:14, Kai ho logos sarx aganeto, and the Word, the Jehovah, flesh he became and dwelt among us, and we beheld the glory as the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and full of truth. No one has seen God at any time, but the only begotten God, he has led himself out. These are expanded translations of the Greek text of John 1:1, John 1:14, and John 1:18. 2 Kings 18:32, Isaiah 63:2 and 3, Matthew 21:1 through 44. Revelation, the 19th chapter. Let's go there. Now it'll make sense. Revelation, the 19th chapter. Now it will make sense. Revelation, the 19th chapter. God always planned for Israel to have a king, but they asked for one just a little early. They wanted Saul, didn't they? In 1 Samuel 8, 5 through 19, and 1 Samuel 9, 1 through 15, and 1 Samuel 16, 1 through 11, and 12 and 13. And then we have Goliath coming against in the 17th chapter, and David fighting Goliath. Now, David is the type of Christ, isn't he? He is like Jesus is going to do in the end time. Okay? Now let's go look and see what happened now. David was going to slay Goliath. But he wasn't only going to slay Goliath. How many rocks did he get? How many rocks did David put in his pouch? How many did he put? 5. 5 is a number of grace, all right. But how many of these Nephilim were there? Goliath was the most powerful one, but how many were there? There were 5. David was going to kill every Nephilim in these Philistines. He was going to kill them all. He's going to kill all the Nephilim. When they got the Nephilim killed, everything was all right. Everything was going to be safe. And he went out there that day as a child, as a young man. He was going to do this. Okay? 17 and verse 1, and then 31 through 40, through 58 even. These Nephilim. Now let's go and see what that represents in the book of Revelation. Meditate after these things. I heard his word a loud voice, a great multitude in heaven saying, Hallelujah, salvation and glory and power belong to God, because his judgments are true and righteous, for he has judged the great harlot, who has been corrupting the earth with immorality, and he has avenged the blood of his bondservants on her. And then you go on down, and verse number 7. Let us rejoice and be glad and give glory to him, for the marriage supper of the Lamb has come, and his bride has made herself ready. And it was given to her to clothe herself in fine linen, bright and clean, for the fine linen is the righteousness of the saints. It says the marriage supper of the Lamb has come. And in verse number 11, and I saw heaven opened up and a white horse. Remember I told you, we talked about him, Jesus coming in on a white donkey in Jerusalem. The next time he comes in, he's going to be on a white horse, a war horse. A war horse. And he sat upon is called faithful and true, and righteousness. He judges and makes war. And his eyes are what? Like a flame of fire. And you're going to go back in the book of Genesis, and we're going to see this, that his eyes are like blood red. Like a flame of fire. And upon his head are many diadems. These are streamers. Streamers off a crown. And he has a name written upon it which no one knows except himself. And he's clothed with a robe. What? Dipped in what? In blood. Just like over there in the book of Genesis. Just like in the book of Genesis. And his name is called what? The Word of God, or the Jehovah of God. John wrote, the Gospel of John, in beginning kept on being the Jehovah. And the Jehovah kept on being an inseparable part of the Godhead, because Jehovah kept on being God. And then Kai Logo Sarx Kanako, and the Jehovah flesh he became, and pitched his tent among mankind. That's what it's talking about here. It all goes all the way back to the book of Genesis. And the armies which are having clothed in fine white linen, white and clean, are following him on the white horses. And from his mouth comes a sharp sword, so that with it he may slay or smite the nations, and he will rule them with a rod of iron. And he treads the winepress of the fierce wrath of God Almighty, Jehovah El Shaddai. All right? Jehovah El Shaddai. The winepress. And back in the book of Genesis, where we're studying in the 49th chapter, what was he going to clean his clothes with? Grape juice. Wine, which typifies blood. And on his robe was written, and on his thigh, and he had a name, King, King of Kings. And how would you say this in Hebrew?
Melech.
What is a literal
Melech,
Hebrew translation?
Melech.
Okay, but how would you say it from the Hebrew Bible? It's quoting the Hebrew Bible. All right? What it says in the Hebrew Bible is Adonai ha-Adonai. That's the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. That's what it is. It's who is Adonai. Even the Jews, when they come to the name Jehovah, what do they say? Adonai. That's who it is. Adonai ha-Adonai. And I saw an angel standing with the sun and cried out and says, saying to all the birds which fly in mid-heaven, come and assemble yourself for the great supper of God, in order that you may eat the flesh of kings and the flesh of commanders and the flesh of mighty men and the flesh of horses and those who sat upon him, the flesh of all men, both free and slaves. And I saw the beasts and the kings of the earth and their armies assembled to make war against him who sat upon the horse, against his army. All right, and the beast was seized, and with him the false prophet, who performed the signs in his presence, which he deceived those and received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. And these were thrown alive into the lake of fire. And the rest were killed with a sword that came out from the mouth of him and sat upon the horse, and all the birds were filled with their flesh. That's what it's talking about here in Genesis 49 and verse 11. In verse 12. We have to do this one. Chaklili. Enayim. Mayayin. Yulivan. Shinayim. Michala. Of dark eyes from wine. Now, what does a wino look like when he wakes up after a drunk? His eyes are all bloodshot. Okay? His eyes are filled with blood. And the white of the teeth is whiter. His teeth are whiter than milk, or whiter than teeth. Gala in Greek. Whiter than milk. Michala. His teeth are whiter than milk. What in the world is this talking about? This is a figure of speech. What is this? Have you ever seen anybody that didn't have anything to eat for a long time? People that were in prisons that didn't have any food to eat, their teeth were all slimy. They weren't even white anymore. When you eat, it cleans your teeth. Did you know that? Do you ever give some of you have dogs and you give them milk bones, and what do? They clean their teeth with these bones. They have something to eat, so they clean their teeth. That's what he's talking about. He has food to eat. The rest of them didn't have any food to eat. He's got white teeth, whiter than milk. Judah alone was in his district. Revelation 19, 11, 12, and 15, or 16 here. That's what it's talking about. All right. Next week we're going to start with 13. We didn't get very far. I told you we couldn't. So we went through 9 through 12. 49, 9 through 12. Now, what we just studied tonight is a tremendous prophecy. When we get to Joseph, we're going to repeat this messianic prophecy, because Joseph, some writers say that Joseph was, there were 70 things about Joseph's life that he was a type of the Messiah. But Judah, through him will come the seed of the Messiah. Through Joseph, he would have the right to the throne. Okay? He would have the right to the throne. You have any questions? Did you like this prophecy study?
Yeah.
The book of Genesis is true prophecy. Jacob's prophecy of Judah and all of his sons, you can look and see this, and you can see the whole history as it sets, and it's going to go on into the millennium and the eternal ages to come. It's going to go into all of that. We're going to cover all of that in history. All of it. Well, let's have a word of prayer. Go out and do something eternal. And I hope this has been good for you tonight to study this. I really hope it is. Brother Roger, would you come up here and dismiss us in prayer, brother?
Father, thank you for putting your word in a format where it's eternal. It's predictive, and if we pay attention and apply it in our life, we can experience salvation and your love. Thank you for Jim's working so hard to present it to us in a way that we can understand it. Please go with us as we leave here and go about our lives. Guide us and direct us in all we say and do. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.